session post the presentation. And just a gentle reminder, please mute your microphone during the presentation. Now, please allow me to invite Mr. Ludovic Garnier, Thai Union Group CFO, to start the briefing. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Very happy again to be with you today. I hope you're all safe despite the COVID-19. So as usual, this is the CFO, the virtual chat with the group CFO for Q4 21. So first of all, we'll go through the first 30 minutes, just a brief recap of what we've been doing over the first 9 months, and then we have a session of Q&A after. Of course, all you know, the first 9 months have been very strong for TU. If I start from the right to the left, the sales after 9 months stand at 103 billion baht, increasing by almost 4% compared to last year. The gross profit also was increasing, very high gross profit margin at 18.2% over 9 months. The OP margin also at 6.1. Keep in mind, we mentioned also that our SG&A percentage was a bit high over the first 9 months, mostly due to the logistic issues, and I will get back to that. EBITDA, as a consequence, was also very high, and net profit after 9 months stand at 6.1 billion baht and a 5.9% net profit margin. I don't get back to these, but overall, very strong numbers. The story of this year has been very different compared to last year. Okay, last year it was mostly the ambient with the first wave of COVID-19, who was the driver of our very strong performance. This year in 21, different story. The frozen is really the key category for us, driving the Petcare value added is still growing very much. And then the ambient has been normalizing over the first 9 months. Okay, I don't elaborate on this one. We already I mentioned this one. If you have any question, again, you can get back in the Q&A. Next. Here, this is our long track story, and here you can see our sales have been growing over the last 7 quarters in a row. Our margin also over the 6 quarters have been very successful, around 18%. If you remember, again, a few years back, if you get back to Q1 18 in particular, our gross profit margin was really a challenge. We were below 12% at that time. And then we told you at that time, the key challenge and the key goal for the union management is really to recover the gross profits. And honestly, I really like these charts. We have been improving to almost 15%. In 2018, around 16%, in 2019. And now since 2020, you can see we are always in the range of 18%, which is very high. The net profit margin also has been recovering, and we are always over the last 3 quarters between 5 to 6%. So again, top line growth, okay, gross profit also very interesting, and net profit also very interesting now over the last 2 years. Of course, keep in mind that one of the components for the top line is the FX. In 2018 and 19, the FX was not favorable for us, but since 2020 and 21, the FX have been much more positive for us. Of course, you know, we are mostly an export company, so we do enjoy when the Thai baht is weak and when the USD, the Euro, and GBP are strong versus Thai baht. Next. I think also the last 2 years, it's a great success and a great proof that our portfolio is very resilient, and we have a diversification which is very strong. You can see here, we mentioned this one at the beginning of the year, we were expecting the ambient business to kind of normalize. And you can see, so here in the light blue, this is Q3 2020, the dark blue on the right is Q3 21, and you could see the normalization of the ambient business. Kind of the same that in Q1 and Q2, declining by 8% top line. No surprise. Again, last year was very high in terms of performance. But you can see the frozen business has been strongly recovering by 11% in Q3. And the same story also for the Petcare value added and others, also growing by 11%. And that's why we have been able, you can see on the right, compared to 2019, the first 9 months of 21 have been growing by almost 10% over 2 years and by 3.6% over 1 year. And again, look at the gross profit margin at the bottom. Very interesting. We moved from 15.9% on average over 9 months 2019 to 17.6 and then 18.2 over 9 months 2021. And again, you can see the key components. You can see the normalization in the ambient at 20.7. You can see the frozen gross profit margin we told you in Q3 was extremely high. We did not expect this one to last. And then the Petcare value-added and others was impacted in Q3 by the closure of one of our key factory in the Petcare business. Next. So just to give you an update on the COVID-19, and of course we hope that 2022 will get rid of this COVID-19. However, we are still facing a situation. We told you in Q3 we are facing a difficult situation. We had few factories which were closed for a bit of period of time. Okay, ITEL, which was the previous name was SEC, was closed a bit. TUS also in Thailand, and YCC. YCC, it's a small factory for us. A factory in Vietnam that was closed also for a few months in Q3. That is the first good news, which is in Q4. These factories have been operating normally. Okay, so we are very happy about this one. Of course, we have kind of a ramp up, especially for YCC, but this is a very small one. Overall, you understand that we need to be very cautious on the situation. Right now, we are facing a new variant, which is Omicron. The whole world is impacted by this one, and I'm sure that you did follow the situation in the US or also in Europe, when the number of positive cases is really surprising and extremely high, okay, despite the vaccination campaign. However, when we discuss with our people there in Europe and in the US, they don't seem to be really afraid. I think this variant is very different from the one before, meaning you have less people dying and going to the hospital. So yes, you have many more positive cases than what we had before. It seems to be highly volatile, and you can get this virus much easier. However, you don't go to the hospital, or at least you have less dead people from this one. So they seem to be very confident, and there is no panic at all from what we can see when we discuss with our people in Europe and in the US, despite the very high numbers. And I think the perception is changing. The way now this specific variant is considered to be like a flu. Okay, and yes, you can get the flu. It's not a good time. Of course, you are sick, but if you are vaccinated, then you have much less risk to be strongly infected. And here we did show you the progress for our vaccination campaign in Thailand, which has been quite successful also in the US, in UK, and in the rest of Europe. We have been also quite successful on this one. We still apply some very strict measures. So for instance, to talk to you about the situation in Bangkok, in our head office, we have some ATK tests, which are happening twice a year. We have also some people working from home, and we still continue also the same measures in our different factories in Thailand, okay? Of course, we continue to monitor very closely. We hope we won't see another variant happening again. However, this is now our life over the last 2 years. We know how to manage with this one, and the situation overall seems to be improving with less and less people dying from this one. Of course, we really try to encourage all our people and workers in the factory or in our headquarters also to go to get vaccinated. We believe it's a very strong protection against the very severe form of the disease. But again, for you, the key takeaway is in Q4, there was no significant impact for us in our supply chain, and all our factories are up and running. Next. So a quick update on Red Lobster. And we mentioned to you the situation in Q3. First of all, we did perform some changes in the top management at Red Lobster. We know that Kim, the previous CEO, retired at the end of last year. Then we have Kelly, who joined, and we have done also some changes in the top management. And right now we are working on the business plan and what do we need to change. Of course, 2020 was for Red Lobster a very difficult year. Most of the restaurants were closed for a while. And here the idea is in 21, the vast majority of the restaurants are being open. Okay. Of course, we need to remain very cautious on this. Just to give you an example, all the restaurants in Canada were closed for decision of the local authorities, or closed for dining in. However, the takeaway are still open. Our people in the US don't believe this will happen in the US. So we believe we are in a very different situation compared to 2020, sorry, where we had to close the majority of the restaurants. So all the restaurants in the US are open. The one in Canada are closed, but it's only something like 20 restaurants over 700. So it's a very small portion of this one. And you know that in Q1, in Q2, in Q3, our situation and our performance in Red Lobster has been improving a lot. Of course, in Q4, we are facing the new Omicron variant, many people being positive in the US, so we watch very carefully the situation, okay? People may be a bit scared to get back to the restaurants, so we follow very carefully the situation. However, all the efforts we have been doing on the off-premise business pay, and I think we were very strong, and we told you this is one of the key success in this crisis, really to see the to-go business and the off-premise business really growing, and this one is still very consistent. We mentioned also that we had to perform a lot of progress in the execution, meaning talking about the quality of the food, talking about the quantity of the food, and talking also about the execution. And I can tell you this is a challenge. This is a challenge because if you do remember, last year we did furlough the vast majority of the people at Red Lobster, meaning we had to hire many people, many new joiners in 2021. And of course, we need to train them, but when you are hiring something like 25 to 30,000 people, it's a lot. And of course, you know that all the restaurants have been doing the same in the US, so there is a very high competition for the resources and the employees, okay? However, since the beginning of the year, I think we have been doing great success. There is also one thing which is important. With this COVID-19, there is more and more desire and direction to get some value, okay? And that's why we have decided to launch these 3 from the sea bundles. You have 3 courses and you pay a bit less than $16. And here we did also launch different meals in order to push for the value proposition within Red Lobster. The last point is related to marketing. You know, of course, since last year, since 2020, we did cut the marketing cost, and the same for the whole restaurant industry. And we have been refocusing all our marketing activities to the digital activities, to TikTok, and also some other stuff. You know, we have one tool which is called My Red Lobster Rewards. We have something close to 11 million people in the database. It's a very strong tool. And we want also to develop further on this one. So overall, we're in the right track. However, we need to follow very carefully the impact of Omicron in Q4 and in Q1. Next. So just a quick update also, and we mentioned that also in Q3. So on the left, you can see we have been doing some internal restructuring. And you know that we have our Petcare business, which is called now Untitled. We know that we may have a project to go for IPO at the end of 2022. And because of this one, we have been carving out our Petcare activities. And that's why we had one company in the US doing some Petcare. We are doing some restructuring, and now it's a subsidiary of ITEL. And also in Thailand, we had different opcos doing some Petcare. And now we did gather everything into one company in Thailand. And now this is effective at the end of 2021. Already, and we believe in 22 and for the future, it will allow us to really focus much more on the Petcare. And you know, Petcare is really one of our success story over the last 2 years, and we believe by this focus, we will be much stronger, much more efficient. On the right, completely different story, just a new joint venture we have been setting up. We just announced in Thailand with a company called GWD. This company will be focusing on cold storage activity. It will be a 50-51. It will be a small one, but just to give you also the direction that, again, we are pushing for more joint ventures and partnership, okay? And we believe with this one, it will help to secure our raw material storage. And, you know, with this time and all the logistic issues, the raw material storage is really one of the key challenges for us. So we need to secure all of this to make sure our supply chain logistics is working well. Next one, and now I guess I will hand over to Kunlina, who will go through all the Zivita launch.
Thank you, Ludo. So now let's just talk a bit about some new product development, starting with Zivita. As you know, we officially launched our own supplements brand, Zivita, in Thailand in September last year. And some of you may have seen the product samples that we sent to you before the holidays. So under Zivita, we launched 4 key products. The first 3 were collagen, calcium, and fish oil. And we recently launched our 4th key product, which is an immunity product. You can see in the orange packaging on the second to left product in the photo. So this one has vitamin C, vitamin D3, zinc, and some other vitamins, which helps for a holistic immune support. The feedback so far has been good, and we have been successful in capturing the market share in the first few months of launch, where we are #1 in calcium and #2 market share in collagen for the pharmacies in supermarkets and hypermarkets. We have an exclusive partnership with Watsons and a partnership with the top 100 independent pharmacies in Thailand. And even during COVID-19, where there are less people visiting the shopping malls or hypermarkets, we are also pushing sales online. So you can find our Zivita products on Lazada, Shopee, and the Watsons online shop. And we are also planning to launch more product line extensions this year. Of course, the business is still small, but it's growing, and you can see that it's a 30 billion market size, 30 billion baht market size in Thailand. So the opportunity to catch this market is huge. Moving on to Zivita by Pharma. So we also launched a new product from our joint venture with Pharma. It's a DHA shot milk product in cereal malt flavor called Lisa DHA shot. This one is sold in Thailand. It has a very high DHA content of 600 milligrams, which is good for your for brain development, eyes, and heart health, and it's suitable for basically everyone, from young kids, which helps with brain development, to adults, and also to elderly, which for example can help with Alzheimer's, and also women, pregnant women, and women in maternity. It's made from our own Thai Union tuna raw materials, and it's cold pressed into a natural DHA that is used as an ingredient added to the milk. You can purchase these on Pharma's channels online, such as their Line store, Facebook, and Shopee. When you look at the recommended daily intake of DHA, it's recommended approximately like 800 to 1,000 milligrams. So clearly, the advantage of this product is that you can drink only 1 can, and you already receive more than half of your daily DHA intake. So apart from that, it also contains EPA, from omega-3, folates, and vitamins and other nutrients, which is helpful for the overall health. Next one, another JV product that we just launched is Tuna Essence, which is with the collaboration with Thai Bev through our JV. This was launched in December last year under the brand Oishi, and it's the first ever in the world. So some of you may be familiar with, the chicken essence drink or the bird's nest drink, which is very popular here in Thailand. So this is a similar concept, but we are the first ones producing it from natural deep sea tuna, which is of course from our own raw materials. It's using nanofiltration technology and has better absorption, and it's tested with a leading testing provider in Japan. Of course, it has omega-3, vitamins, zinc, and other essential nutrients that is good for the brain, the nervous system, and overall health. So this is also another huge market opportunity, which we want to capture here in Thailand of around 10 billion baht. We have 2 SKUs, so 2 flavors in passion fruit and original flavor. And you can find these at 7-Eleven near you, supermarkets, and also online channels. So of course, as you can see, these NPDs, we're moving towards more healthier products. But both of these JV products, they're just launched, and so it's still quite small, but we believe it's in the right direction, which supports our financial targets to 2025. Moving on to sustainability topics, starting with sustainability-linked finance or blue finance. As you may know, we started our blue finance portfolio in the beginning of last year, and we set a target to achieve 50% of our long-term financing of 45 billion baht to be linked to sustainability KPIs by 2022 and 75% by 2025. We became the first ones in Thailand to issue a sustainability-linked loan of 12 billion baht and a sustainability-linked bond of 5 billion baht last year. Since then, we have issued a series of 4 sustainability-linked financing, so two loans and two bonds, both in the Thailand and Japan markets. The KPIs consist of 3 areas: inclusion in the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, and also electronic monitoring of tuna fishing vessels. By the end of last year, we have refinanced a total of 27 billion baht, which means we have already achieved our 2022 targets, with more than half of our portfolio linked to sustainable financing. Apart from that, we also introduced step-up, step-down facilities on our coupon rates. So if we achieve the KPIs, our coupon rate is stepped down. And if we don't achieve the KPIs, the coupon rate is stepped up. So as you can see, the sustainable financing has helped us in terms of cost savings, and we have also been the first ones to lead in this blue finance area. In Q4, we also issued a short-term sustainability-linked revolving loan to support our working capital requirements, and we also secured a $70 million sustainable-linked supply chain financing. So our efforts here have, it has been recognized by leading institutions around the world, and you can see some of these awards we received. The latest ones were Best Issuer for Sustainable Finance and also Best Deals by the Triple Asset A Awards, and also Product of the Year Award by Business Plus.
Let me jump maybe into this one, because I think this is really something I want to insist on and I want to highlight to you. And we have been discussing a lot about this one, but this is clearly something we are looking for since a few years already. And I think maybe 10 years ago when we decided to invest massively in sustainability, there was always a question, which is, okay, what are the benefits? Okay, we understand it's good for your business in the long term, but in terms of pure financials, what are the impact for you? And I think this is really a step change for Thai Union and for the whole industry. We have been doing some refinancing for a bit more than 800 million baht, $800 million. So many different operations. For the first time, we did raise some money in Japan. Okay, and the success of all these transactions was extremely high. We had also good news coming from this one. So the fact that we were the first one to launch SLL and SLP, and the fact that we were the first one also to have this mechanism of step up and down was really appreciated by many people. And many people are asking, guys, okay, how do you do that? I think we were able to do this one thanks to our legacy. Now we are clearly being recognized as a leader in sustainability. And that's why we were able to implement this tool. It was not an easy task, I can tell you. It was a very complex, and here really congratulations to our treasury team who did extremely well during that time. But at the end of the day, we did succeed in having exactly the financing we wanted to have from the beginning. Okay, so it's a significant portion of our long-term financing. We are close to 50% at the end of 21 and 22. The goal will be to increase further and to move to 75% by 2025. Okay, but very happy, and I think this is really one of the key achievements that we have in 2021. Back to you, Lina.
Thank you, Ludo. Moving on to CSR topics. So of course, supporting our local communities continues to be very important for us. We have strengthened our CSR efforts in light of COVID-19, and we will continue to do so. You can see the first one, we joined a global marine protection campaign by the Seafood Business for Ocean Stewardship, or CBOS, and together with the Ocean Conservancy at the end of last year. And we organized a coastal cleanup with 50 volunteers from Thai Union to collect and separate trash at a local mangrove in Samut Sakhon. We had the honor, of course, to be joined by Ludo on that day, along with some other TU management. And you can see on the right-hand side here how much trash we collected. So over 1,300 kilograms of plastic bags, bottles, and foam just from one mangrove. Globally, Chicken of the Sea also made some donations of our products to students, foundations, and local communities in the US. In Europe, Bettina Vief also did a campaign with Secours Populaire Français, an NGO in France, to donate some profits, from some new smoked salmon products that we launched to help people impacted from COVID-19. And finally, just a quick update on our sustainability strategy sea change. On the next slide, please.
Maybe, Lina, let me add just one thing on what you mentioned on the previous chart. Indeed, we took part to the, you can see the operation on the top here, which was cleaning a mangrove very close to our factory in Samut-Sakhon. I must say that I really enjoyed this day. First of all, I was very impressed because it was very dirty. It's in the mangrove close to our factories, and you can see a lot of plastics everywhere. And here what you are doing is very useful. Of course, it's a very small action, very, very small action when you see the rest, because you leave a lot of trash. Even when you leave, there is still a lot on the ground. However, we are very happy to do this one. And I think there were something like 50 people from Thai Union, if I'm not wrong, doing this. And there were also many other people from some other communities. Very happy here to have a very real concrete action in order to try to improve the environment. So very happy about this one. I did learn a lot during that day, but it was also a lot of fun. If you have the opportunity to do these kind of activities, don't hesitate. I think it's very useful for the environment. And 1 ton, 1.3 ton at the end of the day is not bad. Okay, thank you. Back to you, Lina.
Thank you, Ludo. Finally, on the last sustainability topic, Sea Change, which is our sustainability strategy and the vision towards 2025. So as some of you have met in our last sustainable finance session, we have a new sustainability director, Adam, and him and the team, as well as our TU management, are working on the targets towards 2025, and some of which we have already announced since last year. So we will be addressing some key topics here, and the one which is at the top of our agenda is, of course, climate change. We want to tackle scope 1, 2, and 3 GHG emissions, or greenhouse gas emissions, which we are working on today as we speak, and we look forward to announcing this new climate change commitment to you in the first quarter of this year. Other topics like sustainable packaging, which you may have already heard of, we have a commitment to have 100% branded packaging of our branded packaging to be reusable, recyclable, or compostable by 2025. We are also looking at food waste and working to reduce food loss in our ambient and frozen operations by 50% in 2025. Of course, the tuna commitment, we started that in 2015 with a target to achieve a minimum of 75% of our branded tuna coming from fisheries that are Marine Stewardship Council certified or MSC certified, or coming from fishery improvement programs by the end of 2020. We overachieved this in 2019, with 79%. And we have now expanded the commitment until 2025, which covers 100% of the tuna we source to come from suppliers that demonstrate operational best practices to prevent IUU fishing. And finally, driving responsible aquaculture practices is also important. So apart from, the best aquaculture practice certifications, how can we ensure that the shrimp and salmon that are raised and harvested that we source are done so sustainably? Finally, last thing I want to highlight is that we continue to work towards the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and we are working towards 4 in particular. So you can see here as the decent work and economic growth, life below water, climate change, and zero hunger. That's it for the presentation. Maybe before we move to questions, Ludo, would you like to give a few words?
Just very quickly, very happy to be with you. Again, I didn't have the opportunity to wish you all a happy new year. Okay, but I think we can move quickly to the Q&A session.
Okay, so that's sum up for the presentation. Now we would like to open the floor for the Q&A. For any participant who has any inquiry, please submit the question in the chat box, or you can raise your hand and unmute your microphone if you want to raise the question by yourself. Okay, please allow me to raise the first question. How do you see Thai Union the fourth quarter 21 performance in terms of the revenue and gross profit margin doing? Any expectations for the fourth quarter?
Sure. I think of course this is one of the key questions that we have. I think we do expect to have a very strong Q4. in terms of top line and in terms of gross profit margin. In terms of top line, I think we are targeting a double-digit growth for the Q4 in terms of revenue. Different reason for this one. The first one is we are comparing to a Q4 2020, which was in terms of growth the softest in last year. So we are comparing to a baseline which is maybe not that strong compared to the other quarters of the year. Plus, also the FX has been very favorable for us in Q4. You know, the Thai baht has been weakening, and the USD, Euro, and GBP on average over Q4 has been really recovering compared to last year. Plus, we believe the momentum, the very strong momentum in the frozen and pet care categories also will continue also in Q4. And we believe also the situation for the ambient will improve. You know that in Q1, Q2, Q3, this category was kind of normalizing compared to last year. We do expect all the categories to be back to growth in terms of top line in Q4. As you know, of course, there are some discussion regarding inflation for next year. So we believe there are maybe some customers anticipating some of their orders. We told you also at the end of Q3 that we have been penalized by some logistic issues and we're kind of catching up. So for all these reasons, we believe the revenue will be extremely strong in Q4, and we are targeting a double-digit growth for the revenue in Q4 21, and growth coming from every category. So every categories, we do expect them to be positive in terms of growth revenue in Q4. Gross profit margin, we told you the performance in Q1, Q2, Q3 has been extremely strong. Maybe can you show the plateau with the gross profit margin? Has been very good since Q1, very consistent also from one quarter to another quarter. You can see here the numbers. It was record high in Q2 at 19%, and then Q3 stood at 18%. We believe we'll be able to replicate kind of the same performance. It was in Q3 18%. It was in Q4 2020 18%. We believe maybe we can improve a bit compared to this one. So overall, we are expecting some very strong operations, top line, gross profit margin. There is one watch out, of course, which is our SG&A. And you know that in the whole rest of the year, the first 3 quarters, our SG&A percentage has been extremely high for 2021, mostly due to the logistic issues we have been facing. The situation is not improving in Q4. And of course, we do expect to have a very strong top line, so we will have some very strong logistic costs also. So our SG&A percentage will be kind of, we do expect to be we kind of record high in Q4. But bottom line, in terms of operation, we do expect to generate a strong Q4. We'll be very happy about this one growing versus what we delivered last year. So very, very pleased about the outlook for this Q4.
Okay, how much is the revenue contribution from new business, ingredients, supplement, and alternative protein in 2021?
So we don't provide specific numbers. We will provide a bit during our Q4 earnings release. What I can mention maybe is everything is on track compared to expectation. Okay, and you remember the new businesses we mentioned, they were ingredients, they were the supplements, and overall we are everywhere on track. You know that we did launch, and we mentioned this one by Lina in Q4. We did launch a lot of new products in Q4. Overall, we are on track with our expectation. Okay, there is no significant gap. The ingredient business, in terms of revenue, is doing good, and the same for the supplements, and the same for the alternative protein also. It's still small, of course, a small portion of our business, and the goal of the management is really to try to improve this, but we're on the right track, I believe.
Okay. There is a question from Khun Shalini. What is the key driver for double-digit revenue growth, quantity, price, or the Thai baht depreciation?
I think it's a combination. One of the first impact would be, of course, the Thai baht depreciation. You are right. The price impact is also something which is important. The price impact, we have seen this in our 3 different categories. Maybe you have seen the fish price in Q4 has been inflating compared to the previous quarters. On average, we are above the $1,600. This is much higher compared to Q3 or much higher compared to Q4 last year. We have also some inflation on the packaging. We have also some inflation also on the ingredients. So the two key drivers will be really the pricing, the price, and also the currency topic. The quantity, I don't believe it will be that big. However, we do see a very good mix that we have in operation. We could see this trend already since the beginning of the year, and we do believe in Q4, the mixed product and the mixed country is improving and is favorable. So these are the key drivers for this expected strong performance.
Okay. Let's go to the raw material price question. Due to the rising tuna raw material price situation in November and December, which is continuing in January 2022, how much the impact is expected in the fourth quarter last year and first half this year?
So indeed, I mentioned this one. The tuna price has been going up in Q4, just above 1,600. This is much higher compared to what we had in Q2, where we were slightly below 1,500, and last year in Q4 we were also in the territories of the 1,300. I think there are different reasons for that. First of all, the weather conditions have been a bit difficult, and the catches have been poor overall in Q4. The demand has been strong. I told you we do expect to have a strong growth from our ambient also category in Q4. So yes, tuna prices are increasing. This will create a bit of inflation. Of course, you know, it's a challenge for us. It is still in the range that we can discuss. When we told you below 16, 17, this is still what we call our, I would say, our comfort zone. It has been growing gradually and not from one month to another month, so it's still manageable. However, we'll have to follow very carefully the situation. In January, the fish price is increasing also, a bit, still controllable. We do expect to see some decrease starting in Q2. Okay, starting in February, starting at the end of Q1 in 2022. Okay. However, there is no heads up for the time being. But yes, we are facing some inflation. You know also that the oil is right now record high, and the oil is one of the key source of spending for the fishermen. So all of this, and we can hear a lot regarding the inflation pressure that we have everywhere. So this is something we have in mind. The packaging also and the ingredients like the oil, olive oil are increasing a lot compared to last year. So right now we're exactly in the middle of the negotiation with our retailers, especially for our branded ambient business, in order to pass through some of this inflation to our customers. I can tell you, these are not easy discussions. These are tough discussions. There is one good thing, which is we are not the only industry. Of course, all the food businesses, and not only the food, but all the industries have to negotiate some tariff increase. But of course, always difficult to get this one. I think we have better visibility at the end of Q1. Okay, you know that depending on the countries, the regulation is different. At this stage, it's a bit too early to mention anything. But right now, we are in the middle of this kind of negotiation.
So, okay, we got the question from Khun Piyapong. Could you explain about raw material cost increasing such as tuna price in the first quarter this year? And do you see it as a transitory and will go for a high length, and which level of price that the company is comfortable with?
I think you're right. So we told you the price has been increasing. I told you the key reasons really for this one are the weather conditions, which have been a bit poor. In Q4, the catches have not been so great. So these are the conditions. Don't be scared of this one. This happens from time to time. We believe this is transitory for the time being. Let's see, we are still in our comfort zone, I would say. So we don't expect in our budget for next year the fish price to become crazy. However, we do expect to have some inflation very clearly on this one, but we do expect this inflation to happen gradually. Of course, again, we follow every day the situation, but we believe that for the time being, this is still under control. One of the complexities coming that you have the fish price increasing, and also the packaging prices are increasing, and also the fish oils are increasing. So there will need to be some inflation. Okay, that's very clear. And this inflation has to go to our customers and also to our consumers at the end of the day. I think we are all prepared for that. There have been many articles in the newspapers everywhere. So this is our normal life, okay? And we have to face with this one. And right now, we cannot tell you if we have been successful in our negotiation. It's a tough negotiation, as expected. The retailers, they don't want to increase their prices in general, and they don't want to increase the food prices, and they don't want to increase the prices of the cans, especially because this is supposed to be a very cheap product, which is here to attract many people to come to the mall. So this is one of the difficulties we are facing, but we believe we can cope with this situation. We are used to that. At this stage, there is nothing to be concerned.
Okay. This is a question from Kun Maria. Can you kindly discuss your view on the interest rate in the US and Europe and how this will affect the working capital cost for the operations there?
I think it's a good question. I think over the last few years, honestly, we have been very lucky. The whole world has been very lucky because we had some very cheap interest rate. Very clearly, the direction right now you can see in the whole world is to have some increase in this interest rate. So yes, I think the cost of the money and the financing will be increasing a bit in the future. However, we did some very large refinancing already for us in 2021, so I don't expect any short-term impact on this one. And you know, there were many discussions in the finance community saying maybe the interest rate over the last few years have been too low, in fact, and it was kind of artificial to be able to benefit from so much cash and so much liquidity everywhere for such a cheap price. And the trend we are seeing right now is kind of the normalization that was expecting since a few quarters. Now it seems to happen. We need to be a bit careful again. I think the situation on the COVID-19 again will be something very important. You know that all the governments, they pay a lot of attention to that and they don't want to kill their economy. They have been supporting very strongly, depending on the country, their economy. So yes, we do expect to see some increase in the interest rate. Yes, we do expect at one stage to be impacted, but not in the short term. Thanks to the very large refinancing we have been doing at a cheap price last year. We have also, again, some refinancing to be performed in 2022. However, it's quite a small portion on this one. So I don't see in the short term a very strong impact from this one. Maybe just one thing to add on this one. Our net working capital, I told you at the end of Q3, was extremely high. Okay, and we have been impacted by the logistic issues in Q1, in Q2, in Q3. The timeline to send some containers from Thailand to the US is now much longer compared to what we had before. So because of these reasons, the net working capital was record high at the end of Q3. In Q4, we are still facing all these logistic issues. We are seeing some improvements on the timeline. Now it takes a bit of less time to send the containers there. However, it's still very costly. Okay, from a cost point of view, I do expect the cost impact to be even higher in Q4 compared to Q3, Q2, and Q1 in terms of logistic costs. However, clearly, net working capital is something we want to work around in 2022. We want to decrease this net working capital. We have been facing a very strong revenue, but still our inventories are high. I think it's a good position in this inflationary context. I think it's good to have a lot of inventories. I think it will help us also to manage this kind of inflation. But clearly, we want to see this net working capital going down in 2022.
How are the Red Lobster and Avanti Speed doing in the fourth quarter last year and the first quarter this year?
So maybe I will start with Red Lobster. So Red Lobster, you know, Q4, traditionally in terms of seasonality, Q4 is always loss-making and is always the worst quarter of the year. So I think it will happen again in 2022. You have been seeing some very strong improvement in Q1, in Q2, in Q3 compared to last year. It will be the same situation. We do expect to happen again in Q4. At the beginning of the year, we told you the full year guidance in terms of share of loss for Red Lobster was to be between 200 and 300. I think we will be in the range of the lower rate on this one. Of course, here I just talk about Red Lobster operations. You know, we have another line which is called Red Lobster lease adjustment. I don't talk about this one. This one we are very clear from the beginning. Full year impact will be something around 600 million baht. But in terms of operation, yes, we are very confident Q1, Q2, Q3 situation was improving. Q4, we have this Omicron virus impacting us. So yeah, there are some interaction with the restaurants, and I told you, especially the operations in Canada have been closed, very small number, but we are following carefully. But overall, we do expect some improvement compared to last year, a strong improvement, and the full year delivery in terms of share of loss will be in line in our guidance, in the low range of our guidance in terms of loss. Avanti is a different story, and you know they have been facing in 21 with two key challenges. First of all, they have been impacted by the COVID-19. The COVID-19 situation in India has triggered some shortfall of staff and workers also in their factories. So there was some disruption in the factories. Now the COVID situation is much better. And they have been facing also with a significant recall in the US. And this is public information. Avanti, you know, is a public company in India, so you can get access to this one. I think we believe these two issues are behind us. However, it will take a bit of time for Avanti to completely recover. We do expect some recovery to happen, but more in 2022. We believe in Q4, the contribution will still be a bit low compared to the standards. But overall, we will have Red Lobster improving compared to last year, maybe Avanti slightly deteriorating. Overall, the share of profit should be in Q4, maybe slightly improving compared to what we delivered in Q4 2021. Keep in mind also that we will have the first contribution from RBF, our 10% investment that we have. You remember, we have a board seat, so for us it will be an associate company. It's a very small contribution for us, but very happy again, and it will help us to improve a bit maybe our share of profit in Q4.
With high inflation situation, the higher tuna raw material costs, packaging costs, and freight costs, what will be the net impact on TU in 2022? How many percentage of the cost increase can be passed through the price increase in this year? And do you expect any lag time of cost and price pass through?
Well, so these are many questions. So here, I don't want to answer today because we will provide some guidance in our Q4 earnings release, and I want to keep the guidance for 22 for this occasion. Maybe some few comments on this one. Yes, very clearly we are in a context of very high inflation. Yes, the tuna price is increasing, but nothing crazy. There is one exception, which is really the packaging cost, okay, and the freight costs, which are very high. Freight costs, they were already high in 2021. The packaging is really the new issue that we are facing. And also, you didn't mention that, but some of the ingredients costs have been increasing. At this stage, it's far too early to mention any net impact for us. We have, of course, some assumptions for our budget, but they seem to be very massive in terms of increase. I told you that this is part of our core business and expertise to negotiate with our customers, retailers on this one. We have also to be very creative in our factories to try to offset some of this increase. We don't have any choice. We need to move to more automation. We need to use more digital activities. We need to move to much more machine usage. And we need also some time to change our recipes just in order to be able to offset and to absorb part of this inflation. So clearly, that will be one of the key challenges for 2022. At this stage, it's a bit too early to mention this one, but with the guidance that we will provide in our Q4 earnings release, you will have kind of a direction on this one. However, if you look at the track record that we have over the last few years, I think we can be kind of confident. Of course, challenging situation, but the good thing is the whole world in this situation. Okay, we are in a very different situation compared that if only the fish price was increasing, and sometimes it did happen in the past, only the fish price was increasing, but the other protein were not increasing. Now all the protein are increasing. The packaging issue and inflation is also impacting all the food producer. So we are not the only one, and it is the good thing, but of course it's a very heavy challenge which is in front of us.
Could you please give more explanation on the frozen and Petcare business performance, as they might be the key driver for the fourth quarter 2021?
Sure. I think the frozen business, I think this is really the great story of 2021, if you do remember, we told you in H1 it was mostly driven by our business in the US. The US recovery has been extremely strong in H1. We told you it will not be sustainable, and I was very surprised to see that in fact it did continue also in Q3, and we do expect this one also to continue in Q4. In Q3, I told you there is something which is new, which is also our frozen business in Thailand is recovering, and I was very happy about this one. Very strong recovery from our Thai frozen business in Q3. Again, Japan, the US, China are importing much more product compared to before. These are one of the key reasons that we have for this one. I think just to make it very clear, we are also benefiting from some difficulties made by our competitors, and also the currency has been helping us on this one. So the momentum in Q3 was very strong for the frozen business, both in Thailand and also in the US, and we do believe this situation to continue in Q4. You know, usually Q4 is very important for the frozen business. There are many activities around Christmas, many people going to the restaurants. So traditionally, it's a very good period for us, and we do expect it will be a very strong one again for this Q4. Petcare, different story. Petcare has been extremely strong now since 2 years. 2 years in a row, every quarter. We have been delivering some growth. We had some challenges in Q3 because one of our factory had to be stopped for a few weeks. Now in Q4, it's fully up and running. I think in terms of, there will be a bit of impact in terms of profitability, because of course, when you do ramp up a factory, you have some additional costs at the beginning, the efficiency is not fully there, blah, blah, blah. However, I do expect in terms of top line, the Petcare value added, remember we have some packaging activities also, which have been very successful over the year. All of these will continue also in Q4.
Since the Omicron outbreak, do you see the demand for ambient products increasing and less demand for the frozen business?
Let's see. I think maybe it's a bit too early to mention anything like this. I think I mentioned to you, this variant is very different compared to the first wave we had to face in Europe or in the US last year. If you do remember, with the first wave, there were many people working from home. Okay, and that was one of the key drivers for the very strong demand for the ambient products. Right now, if you see, you don't have a lot of people or a lot of countries imposing the work from home. You still have some, and even in our operations, from people working in the corporate, we still have some people working from home, but much less maybe compared to 2020. And I think now the people, unfortunately, are getting used to this situation. Okay, so we are getting back to a more normal situation. So we are, in terms of ambient products, we're not as strong as where we were in 2020. However, I told you that in Q4, my expectation was to see the ambient category to be back to growth. Okay, so different story compared to Q1, Q2, and Q3. And the frozen was also very strong. Just to make it very clear also, I told you that because of all this inflation pressure, very clearly, I do expect that some of our customers will order a lot and they will build up their inventories at the end of Q4. This is very often a mechanism that we see when we are facing some inflation pressure, and I do expect this will happen, and I do expect that will be one of the drivers also for an expected strong performance of the ambient business in Q4. Of course, maybe it will mean that our Q1 2022 may be a bit lighter in terms of growth compared to our previous quarters. But okay, this is life, and we can understand this kind of mechanism.
Could you please update the detail on the IPO plan for the ITL population?
So we mentioned this is one of the big projects we are working on right now. It's only a project. We don't know yet if it will be successful or not. It will, of course, depend on the market conditions. What we mentioned is we were targeting indeed to go for IPO potentially at the end of Q3 or in Q4 2022. Okay, so right now we have been doing all the internal restructuring that we had to do. The US operations have been carved out, and all the Thai operations have been also gathered into one specific opco on this one. So we have a plan. We have, of course, some advisors. We try to build a plan on this one. Of course, again, we will be highly dependent on what is the situation on the COVID-19. We will be highly dependent also on the market's condition, and this is very difficult to predict on this one. Okay, so we are putting ourselves on track for this plan, but at the end of the day, maybe it will be a no-go. Okay, but clearly for the time being, this is direction where we want to go. Very clear direction coming from the management here, so we are moving ahead on this path.
Okay. It seems there's no further question from the floor. So before we end the session, Pluto, would you like to convey any message to the participants?
I would like to thank you again for your attention. Again, we are doing all this event online, and the earnings release also will be done online. I really do expect that in 22 we get back to physical meeting. I would be more than happy to meet with you guys. I miss you, and I think it's much easier when we talk face to face. Okay. However, we have the technology. It's also very efficient. We need to admit we know we don't lose time in commuting, and very happy about this one. Again, I take the opportunity to wish you all a happy new year to all of you. I think we'll all be happy with the next earnings release to come. Okay, I think you clearly understood from my feedback that the expectations are high on this one. Thanks again for your attention.
Okay, so this concludes the virtual afternoon chat with Thai Union Group CFO. Thank you very much for your time and interest in participating in the event today. If you have any further questions, please feel free to contact our IR department. We wish you have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Cheers.